There's not a lot of stuff in my younger years that impressed me.
When and where were you born?
I was born on March 13th, 1947. I was born in Detroit, Michigan. We lived in Michigan. We lived right by Detroit. It was just like a small
Town outside of there?
Yeah.
Is that where you grew up too?
No.
No? Where did you grow up?
Where did I grow up?
Yeah.
Well,
All over?
yes, all over. I think we came out of Michigan maybe when I was 6, 7 months old.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't there very long. I don't remember. That's probably why I don't remember a whole lot about it. But we lived in Cleveland. I lived in Cleveland twice. Then we were in Mansfield. We were here. I got to go to Safety Town here. And then we went to Texas. We lived in Amarillo, Texas, which my dad called the God-forsaken state. He hated it when we were there. And yeah, I went to first and part of second grade there. I went deaf when I was in Texas. We lived through sandstorms. And then in the middle of the second grade, my dad decided to leave the God-forsaken state of Texas. He hated that place. And I liked it for a while, but even as a kid, I liked winter. And it snowed one time in Texas while I lived there. I remember all the schools shut down, and we had just a dusting of snow. And by the afternoon, I was riding my bike in my shorts. But we came back, and Dad didn't have enough money to get us from Texas to Ohio. So we would have, now this was during the school year, we'd have to stop along the way so Dad could work to get us to the next state. It was fun until I got to Cleveland, and when I left Texas, we were printing and doing a little bit of reading, but not much. And when I got to Texas, Cleveland, they were already writing. And they were doing things I had never done in school. And I thought if I could just see somebody's paper, which is called cheating, if I could just see somebody's paper, I might be able to understand it, but they were writing cursive, and I could not write cursive. So I could not read cursive. So that was part of the hardest time that I can remember in school, was transferring. When we left Texas, it was like, I don't know, maybe March, and I didn't get back to school until mid-May. That's a lot of school to miss in the second grade.
Yeah, it is.
And I remember my mom had to teach me how to read and write at home that summer, or I wasn't going to get to go to the next grade. And I also had to learn how to multiply on my tables up to 12. And I thought, I hate math. I hate reading. I hate it all.
Aww.
But then math became my best subject, and I loved it. But it was really a rough summer. And as soon as I learned all that, and it was all time to go to school, my dad moves again. And we come to Mansfield because he had been working in Mansfield. He moved us to Cleveland. But he worked here. He opened his business here. Well, yeah, and especially when he was opening his own business. It wasn't like he was working for somebody.
Yeah.
He worked for himself.
So who were your parents? What were their names? How would you describe them?
My mother was Elizabeth Shanklin. She was born in Baltimore, Maryland. And my father was Joseph Ignatius Jarbo. I remember in school we had to write all those names down. And I would hold my hand up and say, can I just put an I for his middle name? No. And I said, well, his middle name is Ignatius. I don't know how to spell it. And they would always say I, period. Evidently, I didn't have a teacher that could spell it either.
Well, can't blame them there.
You know, so, and he was also from Baltimore, Maryland. All my brothers were born in Baltimore, Maryland. I had Johnny, who was 12 years older than myself, and Billy, who was 8 years older, no, 9, and Gary, who was 8. There was less than 2 years apart on them.
Do you know how your parents met?
I'm assuming school.
School.
I know my grandfather didn't like my dad. He thought he was a bum. Because my grandfather was, at one point in his life, he was a very rich man. And then they went through the stock market crash and he lost $4 million. And you figure back that many years ago, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And my dad's family were farmers. And then his dad died when he was 5, though. And Grandma used to take care of a priest's home. And she had these huge Great Danes. I used to get to ride on the back of the Great Danes. Isn't that bizarre? That I would remember that.
Now, when you were younger, were you a part of any sports, activities, or clubs?
Well, I was in the French club.
Can you still speak any French?
I could speak French fluently years ago. My mother spoke French, and she and I would speak French at home. But I would do my homework, and sometimes I'd write in French and not even realize it. Because when I was in school, all of our texts were French. We read, I read about Madame Curie, but it was in French. So, I mean, we spoke no English at all in our French class, none. I was in student council. I played basketball. I did a lot of track.
Do you remember what position you played in basketball?
In basketball, well, it was sort of, back when I played, as Lane would say, I'm older than dirt, we didn't play a full court.
Oh, okay.
We played half court. I was a guard.
Okay.
Because I was
careful, babe.
Too short to be anything else. But I did that. In grade school, I pitched softball.
Okay.
Until I took a line drive in the face. And after I did that, every time somebody hit a ball, I'd hit the deck. And I remember my Mrs. Whitfield, I remember her yelling at me all day, you got to stay standing. But I couldn't after I took that line drive. I just couldn't. I love sports. I played all the sports. I was a cheerleader for a while. I was a really good student. I graduated in the I was 17th in my class of 500 and some.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, I thought so. I was in M section.
What is that?
M section?
Yeah.
Okay, that was the cheering section that we had like at basketball time. And we all sat in the bleachers, and we either wore red or white, because back in my day, Mansfield's colors were red and white, not brown and orange. I wish we would have stayed with red and white, but we did not. And we had, we wore red pencil skirts that were wool, and we wore Angora sweaters. And we either wore all white or all red. And the red was the background, and the M, for M section, was white. I wanted to wear red, but I had to wear white. And then I had a flat tire, and I had to change my tire with that white dress on.
At least you knew how to do it.
Huh?
At least you knew how to do it.
Yeah, I did. I knew how to, oh yeah. I had to learn when my dad got me my car, there were certain stipulations. I had to know how to change a tire. I had to know how to check my oil. I had to be able to put my own gas in it, and I was available 24/7 to my mother whenever she wanted to go. If I did all those four, I got a car. So I did.
Do you remember any of like the fashion trends or slang other than the pencil skirts that were popular when you were a teenager?
Well, actually, yeah, we had kilts. When I was in cheerleading, we made our own kilts because we wanted a special. I don't know why we did it. That was just it, and we had it over. You know, we made them ourselves, and we wore them over and down the side. It was overlapped with a big safety pin. You put a big decorative safety pin, is what it looked like on it. That held it together. I know it sounds silly, but it was cool. It was cool. And saddle shoes. We wore saddle shoes.
Saddle shoes are back.
Yeah, and I was different than a lot of them in the saddle shoes. Because I wanted the red soles. I had to have red soles. Do not ask me why. I have no idea, but I had to have red soles. And poodle skirts, hip pleat skirts. I love the hip pleat skirts. And you wore, you know how you used to have cardigans that buttoned?
Yeah.
Well, in my day, you wore them backwards.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, and they buttoned down the back.
In your opinion, what is one of the biggest differences in the way the world was when you were a teenager versus the way it is today?
Safety.
Safety. And what kind of way?
You didn't have to, your kids could go outside. You didn't have to worry about people taking them. And as a teenager, I could walk all over Mansfield, day or night, and never have to worry about anything happening to me. Even the lowest part of Mansfield I could go to, and if you were safe. You didn't have all the, things that you worry about your kids today when they go out. If they're gone a little bit longer, are they okay? We didn't have that worry. The only worry we had was getting under the desk during a bomb practice, because we didn't have fire drills, we had bomb practices.
Is there any advice that your parents gave you or a family member that you will remember forever?
Any advice? I guess the biggest thing, and this is what I told Lane and Misty too, in a roundabout way of saying, think before you act. And that's what, my mom would say, think before you act, or she would say, what were you thinking? I could never tell her what I was thinking if I did something stupid. But I used to, it all boiled down to don't react, stop, assess, and act. I told Lane that all the time. Don't react to things, think about what you're doing, and then act on it. Did he ever say he remembers that?
I don't know, he might have.
He probably remembers me telling him I'm going to knock him in the next year.
How many kids did you originally want?
2.
2?
A boy and a girl, but I wanted the boy to be the older one, and it didn't work that way.
how did you choose their names?
Well, Misty was Heather Ann. Clean up to the month before she was born, and I was going to paint her room. And I went to Carter's, Mary Carter's, I think it was, out on 42. And the lady in there was telling me that she had just had a granddaughter, and they called her Misty. And I loved that. So that's how she got her name. And Lane is just named after his father and my father. His father's name is Brian Lane, and then my father's name was Joseph Ignatius, so he was Lane Joseph.
What is a special memory that you have with your kids, separately or both together?
Well, one Christmas with Lane really stands out. We were on the paper route, and it was Christmas Eve, and he was so afraid that we were going to miss Santa Claus. And I was tracking Santa Claus's whereabouts on the radio, you know, through that thing that they do.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that he was in Lexington, Ohio. And at that point in time, we were actually going down Lexington Avenue, and Lane heard his sleigh bells. And we looked up in the sky, and we saw Santa in his sleigh. So then he was almost in tears that he was going to get to the house before we got to bed. And I got him home, and he's probably the only night of his life he ever went to bed happily. And he went to bed, and I remember Santa had bought him a train, and I had put it together. I wanted to see it run. And I fell asleep. And his train was running when I fell asleep, and I rolled over and it hit me in the head. I remember that Christmas really, really well. And then when Misty's, I don't know, she was probably about the same age as Lane, actually, 4 or 5. And we lived on Spring Mill going towards Shelby. And that year, Christmas, Santa decided that Misty's presents should all be ones that needed to be put together. And we had doll houses to put together, and we had doll trikes to put together, and I don't think we got more than an hour's sleep that night before she was up.
Oh my goodness.
Because Santa didn't leave them put together. We had to do it. But she had this house that was about as tall as she was. I would say it was about the same height. And I remember her standing in front of that house so excited on Christmas morning.
What is the worst thing your kids ever did when they were little?
Lane set the house on fire where we lived with a friend of mine. He wanted to see if the Candyland people would melt. And he set the upstairs on fire. He was fascinated with fire. Sound familiar?
Yes, it does. Aiden?
And what was the worst thing? What was the question again?
What's the worst thing they ever did when they were young?
Oh, and then Misty, oh, she wasn't young. She was dating. And I was trying to get her not to limit her possibilities, you know, not to be
Not to
going
settle.
steady and all of that. That she should date more than one person at a time. Well, she took me up on it literally. She had a date with 2 guys on the same night at our house. They were both Tom, thank God. That was their name, so I didn't get them mixed up that way. But we lived in an apartment building, and we lived in the upstairs at that time. But we lived in both sides of the upstairs. So she had one boyfriend on one side and one on the other, and we were rotating back and forth.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I was so mad at her. I never told her how to date after that.
Do you have a story about something that you did that you never told your kids about?
I was walking home from Johnny Appleseed, which is on Klein Avenue, and we were cutting through the woods, and I was with my boyfriend. And we were coming through, and I heard this girl yelling. And we went up, and these boys had this girl surrounded. They were not doing nice things, and I went after them. And I did. And my boyfriend ran.
Nice.
That was the end of our friendship. He left me there. But I won out. But then I had to have police escort back and forth to school for a while because my life was threatened over that.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever told them about that or not.
What is something that you admire about each of your kids?
About each of my kids?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Misty is such a caring person, and she decided young that she wanted to be a nurse, and she went through with it, and she is a very good nurse, and she just is an all over good person. I can't remember her but maybe once or twice in her whole life that she was ever mean to anybody. Because she just doesn't have too many mean bones in her body. And the fact that it's amazing to me that she will stand up to doctors for her patients. She takes her profession very seriously.
What about Lane?
Lane? I don't know. No. The thing that impresses me a lot about Lane is he is not afraid to try anything different. If he thinks there's a need, he goes full bore. And he's not, for doing that kind of stuff, he's not easily swayed. Now, when he was a teenager, he was very easily swayed by everybody. It got part of him, he is a sucker for underdogs. But when he was a teenager, it got him into a lot of trouble. But as an adult, maybe not so much. It might get him some precarious situations. But I don't know as if it gets him into trouble. If it is, he's not telling me about it.
Where's your favorite place to vacation?
Well, I never went on vacations, not even as a youngster. We went to Baltimore to see family until my son was a teenager. And then I started going with Judy, who was my best friend in the world. And we went to Soaring Eagle in Michigan a lot. So I suppose going up into Michigan, and because I could go up and see where I was born, and we got to go to the big Christmas place up there, and we always went like towards the end of October when it was so pretty out and there was Halloween stuff, and we would go to all these haunted barns and stuff like that. That was the most Michigan. I like going to Michigan.
Is there somewhere that you always wanted to visit but haven't had the chance to?
Yeah, we always wanted to go to the New England states. I have never been up in Boston or anything like that. The farthest east I've ever been is Atlantic City and Baltimore and all that. But I always wanted to go to Vermont and Connecticut, and we just never got there. I've been to the West and all, and the Midwest, but.
What would you consider to be the hardest time of your life, and how did you overcome that?
The hardest time of my life was when my mother died. I resented my brothers because they knew her longer. And that really was hard for me because we're all about family, but yet I resented them. I had Misty when Mom was sick, and she's what got me out of it. Because I could be so close to her. She just took up every minute of my life. By the way, I remember I was born in Mount Clemens, Michigan.
Oh.
That's where my parents lived, was in Mount Clemens.
What do you think makes someone a good person?
For you to realize that the most important thing in your life is what you can do for others. And in doing so, it makes you a better person.
Do you have a favorite song or genre?
I like country music, but my most favorite song in the whole wide world is Mary, Did You Know? That talks about, did you know you were holding the Son of God? Did you know, that when you saw his face, you were seeing the face of God? And that's my favorite all-time song in the world. I could listen to that all year long, not just at Christmas. Let's see, if I could go back to any age. Wow. It seems like my life is split up. Like when Misty was little, that was a good time. And then right after I had Lane was a good time. But I think if I could go back and change and know what I know now, I'd like to be 15 or 16 again, because I think I could have changed the course of my life. I don't know if I would, but that's just, I think that's when you make your biggest, stupidest mistakes. I do. Yeah, you think you're so old and you're just an infant. And you think you can make your own decisions and you can't. So that would be a time to relive, to maybe change. But then again, I don't think I'd want my life any different than what it is now, because I love my life. I don't love my life. I love the life that surrounds me. I love my kids and my grandchildren, and it's just, they give me so much pleasure.
If you could sit on a bench and talk with anyone living or past, who would it be?
My mom.
Your mom.
I would want to know, my mom's mom died when she was 11. How did she get through it with the grace that she did and with respect that she had for herself? Because I think that was one thing. My mom seemed to me to be very comfortable in her own skin, and I was not. And I missed the fact that I didn't get to be. I am friends with my daughter. I was never friends with my mom, because she died too young. I was just a kid when she died. I mean, I was 22, but I was just finding myself. I could talk to Misty and tell her things that I would never have told her 20 years ago. And then she could tell me about heaven. And I think she would be so proud of my kids. They're such good people. And they have such a strong faith in God. And that was so much my mom. I'm so proud that I have children that went on mission trips and cared enough about other people. And I think they both, Misty being a nurse, she serves other people. And Lane wanting to go into politics, that was his big thing too, was serving other people. And my mom would have been so proud of that my kids learned that, because that's what she was about. And they never knew her. Never knew her. Misty says that when she saw a picture of my mom when she was around 6, she told me she comes and plays with me all the time.
Aww.
And she never met her. I mean, she was just a couple months old when Mom died. But she knew that picture as soon as she saw it. And says she comes to see me all the time.
Wow.
I didn't expect that.
Oh, I'm sure. What do you think is one of the best gifts you ever received?
This is going to sound really dumb, because it's the gift I never got. But I remember one Christmas, we had a really, really bad Christmas. And I remember I wanted a tumbling mat really bad. And I got a letter from Santa Claus, and he promised me a tumbling mat. And I kept that letter for years. I never really expected it, but that, just the fact that I got a sled that year that the boys took out and wrecked on Christmas Eve. But they did. But yeah, I don't know why that, but that tumbling mat has always stuck in my head. But Santa had said that I knew the reason why. But Santa said that it was because we had nowhere to put the tumbling mat. And when we moved somewhere where I could have a tumbling mat, that I would get my tumbling mat. And that letter just meant the world to me.
What in your life are you most proud of?
My kids.
Do you have any fears, like heights, snakes, spiders, things like that?
Oh, I'm terrified of heights. I don't have a problem going up. I just can't come down. I can go up. I just can't come down. And I don't like snakes. I used to have a terrible fear of cats because my brothers told me that if I had a little kitty cat, and if I put the rope around its neck and swung it over my head, that it would die and come back to life. Well, I did everything my brothers told me to do. It died, and it didn't come back to life, and they told me that from now on, and mind you, I was 3, every cat would be out to get me because I took that cat's knife life. And every time I got around a cat, it went after me. Until somebody, in their infinite wisdom, got my daughter a cat when she was 6. And I had to suck it up because she loved that stupid little cat. That cat would bite me, scratch me, and everything else. And then I got over it, and it got over it. And that's the only fear I can honestly say I ever got rid of.
In future generations, how do you hope your relatives will describe you and your personality?
Well, I can't deny that when I was raising my kids, I was mean. I was really strict. And I've been through a lot in my life, so I would like people to remember me, that I could overcome things. And that no matter where I was at in my journey of life, anybody who knew me knew I loved them.
Looking back, is there anything in your life you wish you would have done more often? Like traveling, reading, had more hobbies, anything like that?
Hell, I've had lots of hobbies. And I used to read a lot. So it would have to be, because I didn't start doing any kind of travel until late in life. I was too busy working. And my dad, we never went on vacations, ever. I remember one time going on vacation, we went out to California to visit my brother. But other than that, I never went on a vacation, so it would be to travel. I'd like to have been able, I'd be afraid now, but back in the day, it was safer to do out of the country travel. I would venture out of the country now. I would be terrified. And I wish I'd gone the only places I've ever been is Mexico and Canada. I could have made myself rich. I would not have.
If you won $1 million, what would you do with it?
Give it away.
To who?
I would. Whenever I think about when they have these big, things where you can win money, I think, well, I'm going to give the church its 10%. Then I sit and I figure out how much I'm going to give to each of my children, to each of my grandchildren, to my nieces and my nephews, to my friends. That's what I sit and figure. I write it down. I do. And I think, even if I won like $300 million, I might keep $3 million of it for myself, but I would give it to everybody else. Just give it to people I hardly know. I would go pay off layaways at Christmas time for people. I'd give it away. I'd love to give the church several $1 million.
Do you have a wish for your grandchildren / great-grandchildren?
I wish for them a more civil country, less violence, and I wish for them to be able to go after what they want and to be sure in their own self-worth. I don't care what they do. I don't care if they're sweeping the streets. I don't care if they're president of the United States. Just be happy with your own self-worth.
If you could choose to have any superpower, what would it be?
Well, I wouldn't want to read people's minds because then I might find out things I don't really want to know. Any superpower. I think I would like to be able to fly. Because, like I said, I don't want to be able to see into people's minds because that's their private business, stuff I should maybe know. And I wouldn't want x-ray vision because I don't want to see what my neighbors are doing. It could be very disturbing, you know. But if I could fly, I could go anywhere I want.
When you pray, is there something that you ask for every single time?
I pray for the health of my family a lot because I'm not giving them much hope. And for their happiness. And by happiness, I mean by that they will accept what God has set down for them and go after it and be happy in it, even in their ups and their downs, because every moment of your life is worth living, whether it's bad or whether it's good.
Okay, the last question. If you could give your family a piece of advice for generations to come, what would it be?
Always remember family. Never give up on family.